So then let me turn to Tom Farrell, who is our layout scratch builder, and find out what he's been up to.
Thank you for the introduction.
Yes, sir.
Got a couple of things for you guys this evening, and let me work on some structures here, actually. So everybody see that, hear that?
No,
No.
no.
Oh, let's try that again then. Okay. That's why I asked. Okay. Okay, how are we doing now?
Yeah.
Good.
There we go. Okay, well, this is a small section of my very large new On30 Rustic Buff and Old Gothic version 2. I call this Brady's Bend after a hard scrabble town north of Pittsburgh. This evening, I'm going to show you how I built Sanford Son salvage and how I finished the building flat in the background, which I'm calling the Milford Hotel. So there we are in blazing color. That locomotive up front is a heavily kit-bashed C16 Broadway Limited locomotive. And the shade to the left is something that a fellow named Sean Williams recently repaired. He put metal gears in there for me, a digital encoder, a wow sound speaker, and works marvelously. Anyway, this you can see where this section of layout's really coming along. It's all about details, details, details. Yeah. So I finished up this DPM O-scale modular wall system. On the left there is from part 3 last week. That's how far I progressed. And on the right, it's now finished. It's not quite installed on the layout, but it's in place for that photograph that I just showed you. I'm going to show you how I made that sign up there, and just some of the other things. First thing is the curtains on those windows. So if you look here to the right, you see every window, every floor has the same series of curtains. All I did is I went on Google and looked for dollhouse curtains, and it was just after the image, and I copied the image, brought it into PowerPoint, and I used a feature called Remove Background, and took out everything that was behind and around the curtain, and then I filled with a black fill. You can fill it with any color, but I wanted black. It's just a trick to not show details you don't want to show. So anybody that knows PowerPoint probably knows what I'm talking about. But I needed 4 for each floor, and I'm modeling the 1920s, 1930s, so these were appropriate. Next was the sign. I wanted one of these metal signs that hold letters up, wire signs. And so I went to Hobby Lobby and I found these, they're die cut. They're not laser cut. These are die cut letters. They're about 3/4 inch high. That's 3 scale feet in O scale. They're very inexpensive. Milford is the town in Connecticut that I went to high school. So it's just gave me an idea for a name. On the photograph on the right, I took the building and I mocked it up on a black piece of construction paper just to see what it would look like. And from there, I took what we call piano wire. It's just a very fine, hard, tough steel wire. I got it at Hobby Lobby. And I just super glued these letters onto the rod. Normally these signs don't have a metal girder frame around them. I did some research on just Google, looking at hotel signs that were like this. But I needed some way to, I couldn't figure out how to work with this hard wire, and I didn't want to run back to the Hobby Lobby and buy brass wire where I could have soldered it. So I got creative and I took some Plastruct, an I-beam material, and I simply bored holes in it with a pointed X-Acto knife. And then I inserted the rod into the end of the quote girder, super glued it in place. Then of course I ran out of that hard wire, and then I used some artificial flower wire that green, very pliable, very pliable wire. Okay. So that's basically the finished sign. And then I spray painted it black as a primer, flat black, because I always found that flat black makes a good base coat for when you're trying to rust things. And I just needed to be primed. I wanted to seal those cardboard letters. I wanted some way to prime all that metal, get it consistent. Then I painted everything with a white acrylic, and then various acrylics to rust it. And that's a close-up of the finished sign. And then I glued it onto the back of the Design Preservations model building flat. And these are some of the highlights. So that's a little blurry, but it comes off very effective as a rusted sign. And the windows, these are simply those earlier where I showed you the printouts. These are simply cut out with scissors and Elmer's glue. I'm gluing it on the back of the Design Preservation model flat, DPM flat. I should say the first step is to glue the glass, quote, the plastic acetate onto the back of the window. Then I sprayed it with dull coat. Then I glued the window dressing onto the back of the acetate. And those are the enlargements of all three types there. Comes off really nice, and especially at a distance. And the signs below is the old trick, you just find things on Google, bring them into PowerPoint. I sanded the backs of these with a fine sandpaper. I roughed up the corners, took maybe a little too off that Ringling Brother one in the upper left. And sometimes I use rubber cement, but this time I just used Elmer's glue, and I just paint the back of the paper printout of the sign with the Elmer's glue, and then I just put it on there and rub it down, and there she goes. So overall, I'm very pleased with this building flat. It comes out. It's a nice details. Details make the model, as we say. Next is the Sanford Son salvage, the scratch build. I featured scratch builds before. I always start with a aircraft grade piece of plywood. I build everything on the bench. The size of my models dictated by the piece of plywood I happen to have on hand. Sadly, that's the extent of my design. Then I just pencil out the what I think is going to be the foundation, and I just start. I don't really have a plan. The plan I should say with this building, I'll get to it a little later, what my concept was. This is more of that monster laser cut material. I really like their product offering. This is their random stack stone. I cut these on a 45 degree in the corners, and then I go back and I cut into to make the corners seamless with the front wall with the side wall and whatnot, so you can't tell that they're actually seamed. This is prior to doing that, but so I do the foundation with 1/4 inch basswood. It's too high here. And then I glue the Monster Works board onto those 1/4 inch foundation, we'll call it. Here's the first wall up on the left there. It features, in this case, this is layered. So there's a profile of the entire wall that's done in basswood. Sometimes I use plywood, 1/8 inch plywood, but this is basswood. And then I take board and batten, in this case, from one of the suppliers. I forget who I bought the board and batten from. I just glue that onto the base material, which is that 1/8 inch basswood. Up above is more Monster Works. These are their shingles, laser cut shingles. I wanted a variety of materials on here because at this point I decided I was making Sanford Son my interpretation of what maybe their building would look like. And I wanted it to be just totally random. And I also wanted this building to have assorted what I call bump outs. So every single wall, all 4 walls, none of them are flat. They all have some sort of bump out on it. That was the concept of this model. And if you see on the photo on the right, all my structures I brace heavily with 1/4 inch basswood. It costs virtually nothing and makes a very strong model. There's a better view of the foundation. That's 1/4 inch material. And then the Monster Works stone is super glued right to the side of it. This is the stairway. It's simply simple plain 1/8 inch basswood material with 1/4 inch basswood framework. It's the illusion of stairs, as you'll see later on if you're familiar with the building, but you'll see. This is the back of the building. This features another bump out. You can see the beginnings of one here. I mean, the easy thing to do would be to just put a series of windows on a flat wall. That makes for a relatively uninteresting building. And I wanted this, like I say, this was my bump out building. So there is that external stairway installed with some, if you'll notice already, there are 4 different sidings here. You can see the siding that's on the stairwell. On the first floor, you can see the tight board and batten. On the second floor, you can see the shingles, and then the bump out on the front of the building, you can see yet another siding. So this is all a series of random materials, because after all, it's Sanford & Son's salvage. So it's not supposed to look ritzy or anything. It's, as you'll see. There's the front. And again, there's a variety of materials here. The vertical board and batten, side, the stairwell has a horizontal siding, and then of course the shingles. There was that bump out we showed you earlier. It just adds dimension and character to the building. It's about I think it's roughly 1 inch off the main wall. There's yet another bump out on the left side. The left picture features the left side of the building. Again, this makes for a architecturally interesting model because of all the bump outs. And it looks like I did use plywood for the base material on this model. So this one will withstand a nuclear holocaust. Here we're just moving along, just another shot. Out of habit, I paint the perimeter black and the inside gray. I don't know why I do that, I just do it. Looks nice in photographs. Unfortunately, I don't have the in between what you see now and what you saw a moment ago, but my technique's always the same. I start with a base color. For example, those shingles are painted with a gray, just a base gray color, and then they're hit with a black alcohol wash. That's all there is to that top floor. The bottom was a series of colors. I started with greens and blues and browns. I finally settled on a blue-green mix. Then I took I have a distressing brush. Basically, it looks like a pencil with metal fibers, metal wire coming out of it. I just scratch it vertically up and down, trying to expose the raw wood. And then I add alcohol washes of brown and black. And as I continuously say every time I demonstrate this technique, it's a very simple technique, and yet you get spectacular results. Everything here is trimmed out. You can see the perimeter of all the walls have 1x6 scale, 1x6 material. I typically pre-paint that white, then trim it to fit on the model. You know, just hold it in place, mark it with a pencil, cut it with an X-Acto, glue it in place. I typically weather it when it's up there, so it has uniform weathering on the building. Here's the side. The roof is on at this point. The roof is just a basswood material. It's not a plywood. This is the front deck. The idea here is you're not going to see everything, so why model everything? So as you'll see, I paint out everything black, so if you happen to peer underneath, you'll see the finish in a moment here, but the idea is, you know, by painting things black, you really can't see anything if you happen to look into there. So if you see to the right, the finished deck, you see there's some boards that are protruding in the middle there where those gaps, see the gaps there and the vertical pieces? They're purposely shown in this photo on the right, you know, that and it's black. So, I mean, you don't have to model everything. So the model's really coming along here at this there's a corrugated metal roof there. You'll see I have 4 different roof materials on this building. So Sanford Son Salvage, you know, they buy junk, sell antiques. Their building is a hodgepodge of different sidings, different roofing materials, different windows. That was all done on purpose. Here's basically the finished model. It really pops, all these colors and all the detail. If you look at the left photograph, the second story, the broken window with the plywood over it, just a nice little detail. The roof immediately in front of you is tar paper. And then there's 1x6s just holding everything in place. You know, just to look a little dilapidated. I put a basement entry door there. That's just a grant line window and an angular piece of material that I fashioned out of scrap wood. The shutter that's falling off on the right. I mean, the idea is that it's just all being partially held together by, you can see on the photo on the right, look at all the different roof materials. There's corrugated roof, there's tar paper, different metal roof. This is the back of the building on the left, which rarely anybody sees. This is the right side of the building. There, I put a fence, my trademark, to make these fences. Again, there's all the same for me. They're scale 4x4s vertically, scale 2x6s horizontally, scale 1x6s as the fencing material. Behind that fence is some just scrap stuff that I painted, and nobody knows it's there but me. There's a detail of the roof on the left. And again, when you magnify a model to this magnification and it looks nice, you've pulled off some nice modeling. It really demonstrates the detail. It's really simple process. It's just questions. On the right is a drunk. Why not? You see the roof details, nothing more than looks like I use 2x6 or 2x6 material, 2x4 runners across the simple thing. The concept is to get to the top of the roof. You come out the door there and you can go right up onto the roof. And there it is in the whole scene. Sanford Son salvage fits right into the genre here. Last couple weeks ago, I showed you the sidewalk sale. I've got the Milford Hotel. It's just propped up there, but that's where it's going. A couple weeks ago, I showed you how I made the distillery to the right. And those are the two locomotives in the shot. So it's really, really coming along. I'm really pleased with it so far.
Fantastic modeling, Tom. It really is beautiful.
Any questions for anybody on the techniques or any of the? No, you're all speechless, right?
No, you just did a beautiful job. Thanks so much, Tom. See you next week.
Yep, thank you.